Yeah, what's happening, people? Okay, so I want to talk about The Walking Dead because I just got through all 11 seasons of The Walking Dead, the mainline series of The Walking Dead, and I want to talk about it. And yes, I realize I'm years late on this, but hey, it's how it be sometimes. But I want to talk about The Walking Dead because, so I watched The Walking Dead up to season 8 back in the day, and then I ended up falling out of sync with it and then forgetting about it and then missing out on seasons and stuff like that. I remember at the time there was some online discussion about, after season 8 or 9 it kind of gets a bit lame, and then Disney Plus, we've got Disney Plus and they have all 11 seasons available to watch. So I thought, you know what, let me just watch it for myself. I'm gonna start again from the beginning and watch it all the way through, and that's what I did. It took me, I think, about a year-ish. I was watching other stuff as well, so I wasn't just, but anyway, eventually, finally got through all 11 seasons, and I've got some opinions that I would like to share about The Walking Dead. Well, first and foremost, spoilers for The Walking Dead. Most I want to talk about the last few seasons, but spoilers for the whole thing. Blanket spoiler warning. And also, I know there was a series called Fear the Walking Dead, which ran alongside it for 8 seasons. I didn't watch that. I think I watched one episode of that years ago, but I never watched, most of it, or the rest of it. But I know that ran for 8 seasons alongside the main series. So I would assume that there's certain things from the main series that might be given better context in that, what happened to Morgan, right? He just disappears. It's like, oh, I gotta go my own path. But I've not seen that, so I don't know. But anyway. So, yeah, I remember hearing that a lot of people, or maybe not a lot, but certainly a respectable number of people did not like The Walking Dead from about season 8, 9 onwards. They felt like it got a bit lame after that. And my personal feeling to that is, after having watched it, I would say that I did enjoy it the whole way through. I felt they did have really good storylines the whole way through. That being said, yeah, it probably should have ended at around, I think, season 9, when Negan's storyline was pretty much wrapped up. Personally, I felt like it should have ended there, and then everything else after that could have been a spin-off. That could have, because they had some good stories and really good characters that they introduced after that. But ultimately, I felt like that ended there and everything else could be like a spin-off that was set within the Walking Dead universe. Kind of like what they're doing now with, Daryl Dixon getting his own show, or he's gotten his own show. I think they just renewed it for season 2, I believe, or something like that. And was it Dead City and the ones who live, they're doing a bunch of stuff now. But yeah, I felt like from season 8, season 9, I think it was season 9 when Rick slashed Negan's throat. Yeah, that should have been the end. That should have been the end for me. And then after that, everything else should have been a spin-off. Like I say, good stories, really enjoyable, great characters that they introduced. I think Mercer, Michael Mercer was a really cool character. I liked him. Princess was a really cool character. She had a really interesting backstory, but they never really explored it that much. They mentioned things here and there about things that happened to her, in the before. So I felt like she was a really interesting character that could have a spin-off that, I feel like she could have an interesting spin-off that's set before the events, like her story set before the fall could have been a really interesting thing to explore. And Mercer, I feel like they don't really say much about his history, but he just has that kind of really cool, badass, you know what I mean? I feel like he's the type of character that you could have a whole spin-off, I don't know, after he leaves the Commonwealth and sets out, I don't know, Commonwealth falls and he's the last one standing and he sets out on his own, I don't know, stuff like that. But yeah, they had some really cool characters they introduced, some really cool storylines. But for me, yeah, it just ended with Negan. It should have ended with Negan's death, and then everything else had been a spin-off. So let's talk about that, because Negan for me was I get these days you have these complex bad guys, they have these backstories and these motivations, and they make them a bit more complex, and you don't know whether to side with them or to root for them, or to you don't know whether to love them or to hate them, right? I get that, and that's cool. I think there's some really cool bad guys in the history of bad guys that have done that. Killmonger's probably one of my favorite villains ever, in terms of how they gave him his motivations that you can fully understand. and everything he was doing wasn't even bad. It was just more the way he was going about it, right? So yeah, Killmonger from Marvel is one of my favorite villains in recent years. So I do like complex villains. I just felt like Negan wasn't that. You know what I mean? As much as I like complex villains, I also like just bad guys. You know what I mean? Bad guys who were just straight up bad guys. And Negan was very much the bad guy. You know what I mean? He was really just the bad guy. Like, he had some, I guess you could say he had some good motivations. Also, he did want to look after his people. But he was the bad guy. You know what I mean? He was a very clear-cut bad guy. And then, you know, so when Rick slashed his throat, I was kind of like, this is where he should have died. They should just let him die, and that should have been the end of it. They decided to keep him alive. Okay, cool. We were going with keeping him alive. Personally, I felt that was a mistake. But in fairness, they did, like I say, there's some really interesting stuff with the character afterwards. So, okay. And also, I do get what they were trying to do ultimately. The idea of that the worst thing you can do to an evil person is keep them alive and let them see how evil they are. You know what I mean? Especially later on when, you know, Negan's he's got married and he's about to become a father, and he's fully realizing all the horrible stuff that he's done to families and how that could happen to him. So I get that thinking behind it, that he's still suffering. He's suffering more that you kept him alive because he's seeing and feeling everything that he's done to other people. So I get that, and I appreciate that as a message. But sometimes bad guys just need to stay bad guys. And when they try to kind of humanize Negan by giving him, you know, this whole backstory, you know, he used to be a gym teacher, and, you know, his wife died from cancer, and, you know, he kind of got pissed off from there, and, you know, that whole thing. It's kind of like, I get what you're trying to do, but come on, Negan, he's a bad guy. But I did like that Maggie never forgave him. I just felt that would have been lame if she was like, oh, I forgive you. No, that would have been lame. So I like that Maggie didn't forgive him, because although forgiveness is good, and we should all try to forgive as much as we can, I ain't saying that. Negan's just done so much. You know, he's done so much. And even though it was like years ago, whatever it was, he's done so much that you can't just forget. And yeah, he's trying to be a good guy now. He's helping him out now. He saved little Herschel's life, and, you know, he's trying to be a better man now. We can see that. But at the same time, yeah, there's a certain things you just can't forget. So I did like that Maggie didn't just be like, oh yeah, I forgive you, because that would have been lame. But now it's like Maggie and Negan got like a spin-off series. I don't know if that's aired yet, or if that's going to air, or whatever. I don't know. I ain't gonna lie, that don't sound like a good idea. That don't sound like a good idea to me. And Maggie and Negan teaming up, that don't sound like a good. But hey, who knows? I guess we'd have to wait and see. But anyway, personally, I felt Negan should have died. They kept him alive. They did some interesting stuff with the character. A lot of it just felt a bit lame, trying to humanize him. Like, a lot of it felt a bit lame, and also just didn't really make a lot of sense. Especially with one character like Lisa, the one with the tattoo on her neck. She was like one of Negan's top guys. Not like inner circle top, but she was pretty high up in Negan's, you know, savior organization. You know, she didn't get a whole lot of lines, but you can tell she was not one of the lackeys. You know, she was a bit higher up than that. So when Negan was taken down and like the savior was just kind of over, it was like all of a sudden she's like, oh, I'm one of the good guys now. And it just kind of that in itself felt a bit lame. Like, how does she get, you know, forgiven so quickly and trusted so quickly, when Arat, who was also probably about the same level as she gets killed off because, like, oh, she's killed all these people. And, you know, when the Oceansiders, was it Oceansiders? Yeah, Oceanside, I can't remember what they're called, but, you know, the ones with all the girls because Negan killed all the men. Those guys, where they're like, yeah, we need to take out some of these, we still need to take out some of these saviors, because, like, of all the things they did, and Arat was one of them. And I'm like, and Lisa wasn't? Like, because Lisa was pretty up there. So how come she lives with all, and they're all like trusting her, and she's hanging out with, like, you know, or like some of the main guys, and like, oh yeah, let me lead. Where'd that come from? Like, Lisa did some bad stuff. Like, well, to be fair, I don't think they show like the bad stuff she does, but she must have done some bad stuff, because she was pretty up there. And then what really didn't make sense is when they show Negan's backstory, and then it turns out that Negan met her before he became, you know, Negan, right? because like she was like the daughter of a doctor or something like that, that helped him out. So it's like, okay, so granted that's not when that savior started, but he would have known her, at least known her to some degree before the whole thing, before the fall, like slightly before the fall. If they've known each other, at least known of each other for that long, and then she's pretty high up in the organization to be, like I say, not necessarily in a circle high up, but, still pretty up there. And she's just like, oh, Negan's gone now, or Negan's been arrested or whatever, thrown in jail. And now all of a sudden, we're friends now. Like, nah, that made no damn sense at all. But anyway, and also things like the time skips. I could get why they have to do these time skips because, you work with children and children in real life age real quick. So from one episode to another, or from one, say, season to another, how they look in real life to how they're supposed to be could be very different. So I get why these time skips happen, but like there was a lot of time skips, and I'm pretty sure they confused themselves because like Negan gives like two different time frames of how long he was in prison for. Like he tells Alpha that he was in jail for, I think it was 8 years. But then he says something about 7 years. I can't remember how many years he said, but it's 2 different years. I know it's definitely 2 different. I remember that. I don't remember the exact number of years he said, but I know he definitely gave 2 different years. He told Alpha once, like 8 years or 7 years or whatever it was, and however, it was 2 different years. One person he told like 7 years, another person he told 8 years. Now, whether that's he's lying to one, that was part of the script, or whether they just forgot themselves how long exactly he's supposed to have been in jail for, I don't know, but it just felt confusing. Like a lot of these time skips they were doing just felt confusing as to where exactly they're supposed to be in the world. And speaking of Alpha as well, by the way, Alpha was a badass villain. Like Alpha was probably my favorite villain out of all of them, but yeah, she just came in too late. Like someone like Alpha should, in my opinion, felt like should have been there earlier on. Because she was a badass villain. She's another character that you could explore as well, like from her beginnings to becoming Alpha, and that whole journey. Because they do a little bit of how it started, but they don't, and how she met Beta. They do go a little bit into that, but I feel like that's a whole thing you can do in what they were doing during this whole time. And that's another thing as well, because like all these groups are relatively in the same sort of area, certainly within reasonable traveling distance of each other. Like the Whisperers, was Alexandra, Hilltop, Oceanside, the Saviors, and then later on, in the last season, maybe a couple of seasons, the Commonwealth. Like all these communities are seemingly within reasonable traveling distance of each other as you're watching the show, because they're able to get to each other, from like horseback and stuff like that. So they're all within some kind of reasonable traveling distance, right? Yet, how is it that none of them ran into each other earlier? Because Commonwealth was supposed to have been there from the beginning. Like they were saying, the Commonwealth was there pretty much from the beginning. Was they said like they set it up quite early on and they kind of built it from there early on. So like Tommy, for example, he was just always just in the Commonwealth, and then that was that whole 12 years there. So how is it that none of them ran into each other before? Like how is it that they're all in this all within traveling distance of each other, and yet not one of them runs into each other until season 10 or whatever it was. You know what I mean? Like, it don't. What if they were supposed to have been like really far away? Then you could be like, okay, but they're clearly able to travel to each other because they're doing that. And they got all these massive 50,000 people. And you tell me not one of them runs into Rick, or whoever else. Like they're just all kind of they're doing their own thing for 12 years. None of them run into the Saviors. None of them run into the Whispers, because the Whispers apparently were there kind of around as well for at least a bit, like 10, 11 years, whatever it was supposed to be for the Whisperers. They're all just kind of all within this traveling distance of each other, but every single time they kind of ventured out miles and miles and miles and wandered around and hunted and scavenging, none of them run into each other until the appropriate season. Like, really? This is not starting to add up. This is the math ain't mathing. You know what I mean? The math ain't mathing on this one. So yeah, there's a few things that just didn't make sense as it kind of went on. You know, like, let's talk about Tommy. By the way, this video is a bit rambly. I know it's not in any particular order. It's just as I'm remembering stuff. But let's talk about Tommy. Tommy Okumura, the brother of Yumiko, right? Because they did this whole thing where, okay, Yumiko finds Tommy in the Commonwealth and he's just been there for 12 years. And then she's like, oh, you know, why aren't you a doctor here? You could be a doctor, because apparently that's his a profession in the before, right? And she was like, and he was like, no, don't tell nobody, I can't know, nobody can know that I was a doctor, nobody can know, because, you know, they give you jobs based on, you know, what you were doing before. And he just wanted to be a baker. They don't really say it too much. They kind of, I mean, they do kind of say it, but they don't really say it in too many words. But they basically let it be known that, you know, I guess their parents were quite strict, and he felt kind of pressure to be a doctor. And he just didn't really want to. It's something that maybe he was good at it, but he just didn't really want to do it. Well, I can understand that. Just because you're good at something don't mean it's what you want to do. I get that. And he's kind of got a chance to be away from that and just do something that he really enjoys and he's got a passion for, just baking. And so he just didn't want people to know that he was a doctor, so he could just be a baker. I get it, you know, I get it. Granted, they're in a world where doctors are a rare thing, right? But anyway, they kind of made a big thing about it. And then I guess Yumiko just couldn't keep her mouth shut or whatever. So somebody found out that he's been doctor, and they show that scene where he got arrested, and they just kind of dragged him away. And then the next time you see him, he's a doctor, and he's just fine, and he seems to be fine being a doctor. It's kind of like, okay, so there was no problem with you? Like, what was this about? Like, I just kind of felt like, look, if you're going to build up this whole thing about how he didn't want to do it, then why not do something with that? Because they seem to just bring it up and not really do anything with it. You know what I mean? Like, so they could have had something where like, you know, nobody found out he was a doctor, but then it came to a point where, you know, people are hurt, people are injured, all the other doctors are dead because Pamela was a bitch, right? And he's maybe the only one that can help. But then they're like, you know, he has to make a choice between, does he become a doctor or, you know, I don't know. They could have done stuff like, you become a doctor or keep lying about it. They could have done stuff like that, but it just felt like they did nothing with it. So I don't know. It's just pointless to me. It just felt a bit pointless bringing that up. But Daryl, I think was a fan favorite for. I mean, he's a badass character. He kind of does his own thing. You know, so that's kind of that's kind of cool. And I guess it's somewhat, and put him and I think. Yeah, just him and Carol. That Daryl and Carol, I believe, they're the only two characters that were there from the beginning of like some season 1 through all through season 11. They're not in every episode, I don't believe. I think then, to my mind, I don't think they're in every single episode. I don't think anyone's in every single episode, but they're pretty much the only ones that were there from season 1 to season 11. Rick didn't make. Oh, Rick. Let's talk about Rick. Because when Rick disappeared, like, okay, here's the thing, yeah? Janice took Rick after he got blown off the bridge because she had some people about, like, they wanted, like, an A person or a B person or something like that. And then she took Rick to wherever they took him to. And at the end of season 11, you kind of get a glimpse of where he might be. He's all barefoot in the sand trying to escape, and he can't escape, right? All right, cool. But here's the thing, though. They were looking for him for a little bit because they're like, we don't know if he's alive or dead. They couldn't find a body. All right, cool. But Janice tried to take Gabriel before she tried to take Rick, or before she took Rick. She tried to take Gabriel. So Gabriel knew about that whole thing, about the whole A-B, whatever it was, right? Or at least knew something about it. And the fact that Janice was missing at the same time Rick was missing, and nobody was like, hey, wait a minute. Janice is it Janice or Janice? I can't remember it. I thought it was Janice, actually. Janice is missing too. Janice is missing. Nobody was like, oh, Rick's gone. Everyone was like, Rick's gone. Let's look for Rick. Nobody was like, oh, Janice went missing at the same time. And then Gabriel could have been like, oh, Janice tried to take me to some AB, whatever, helicopter people she was calling. Maybe that has something to do with it. Nobody brings it up. It's just, oh, yes, look for Rick. Can't find Rick. And Janice doesn't get a mention. Like, just disappears. Two people disappear at the exact same time, and nobody thought that might be connected. Like, really? Okay. And then later on, when Michonne finds that phone, like finds a mobile phone, and it's like, oh, there's a chance that Rick could be alive and I have to go look for him. Okay, I understand that. But then she just disappears for the next, like, however long it's been. And it's like, you just abandoned your son and daughter to go look for a man. Really? Really, like, I understand actually you might want to go look for him and then try to find him, and then you kind of see how it goes from there. And maybe she couldn't find him and thought, okay, look, I better get back to my kids because they need a mother, because they ain't got no daddy right now, so they definitely gonna need a mother. All right. No, she just stays looking for this guy until the end of season 11. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's a come on, you abandoned your daughter, abandoned your son to go look for a man, couldn't find him, or at least hasn't found him, because they haven't found each other by the end. It's all, oh, we're the ones who live. But she hasn't found him by then. She's all dressed up like she's preparing for Black Panther or something. You know what I mean? Like, that outfit looked like she was preparing. It probably was at the same time. That's probably, I don't know, maybe not the exact same time. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The point is, it doesn't make no sense that she just left them for that long. Like, there's a point where you're like, okay, look, I need to get back to my kids. You know what I mean? There's a point where you're just like, okay, I couldn't find them. I need to get back to my kids, or at least regroup and then maybe come back and try something else. You know what I mean? That sort of thing. I don't know, that's just a bad parenting as far as I'm concerned. Like, if it's going to abandon your kids, you just leave your kids with their wayward, like Daryl. Like, I'm sure Daryl, well, not even sure. Daryl did well. He did all right looking after, Judith and RJ. He did all right, he did his thing. But come on, man, it's not his job. And RJ just seemed to be like, why was RJ there? Let's keep it real. Like, why was RJ there? Like, he had next to no lines. Like, Judith did all the talking. RJ was just kind of in the background, just there. Like, okay, you got another son, and he got another kid. It's like, what? No line. Like he has maybe 3 words or something. You know what I mean? Like, why even bother at that point? Like, why even bother have them have a child together? And then he's barely in the story. Like, what was the point of that? And who else? Kelly was a waste of time as well. Like, when they brought in the was it Yumiko and Luke and Connie. Kelly was just basically a translator. Let's keep it real. Like, you had this whole character and you do nothing with her. Like, she's there to translate. And look, I get it. Most people don't speak sign. I don't not understand sign language. So yeah, it helps to have somebody who can translate. I ain't saying don't have a translator, but can that person also have their own life? You know what I mean? Like, can that person also have a reason to be there other than just to translate what Connie's saying? Because it's clear that Connie was the main one. And then Kelly's just kind of there. And to be fair, Kelly did have her moments. To be fair, I think she did have her moments where, when they got trapped in the cave, and Connie got trapped in the cave, and she was like, no, we need to stay alive so we can save them. We can't save them if they're dead, So she had a moment, but no real character development for Kelly. But Connie was an interesting character. I did like Connie. I felt like the best parts and the most interesting, let me not say best because that's a whole other thing. The most interesting parts for me with Connie were the parts where she was on her own because she's deaf and she can't hear things, and she can't hear the noises of somebody behind her or things, stuff like that, like whatever's going on, she can't hear. So I feel like those for me were the most interesting parts with Connie, where she was on her own. Anyway, Walking Dead from seasons 1 to 11, I enjoyed that. I thought they did really well with the stories, with their development, with the characters. The ending, yeah, maybe a little bit on the weaker side, in fairness. Pamela, waste of time. She was a decent enough character, a decent enough villain, but ultimately it's just too little too late. Oh, here's another thing as well. All the F-bombs are dropping in the last half of the last season. So it was so... It just stood out too much. I think at the time, because I remember a few TV shows back in the day where all of a sudden they would just start F this and F that, right? And I think what happened, I don't know this for sure, maybe I have to look it up or something, but I guess what happened is that there was a change in how TV shows were rated and what they allowed on TV, but it just felt like they went so long without it, and then literally in the last half of the last season, it's every episode, really? And it just seemed like, at least for me anyway, I was kind of like, okay, who's going to say it this time? Because they were kind of bouncing around different characters of who gets to say it. And I think Daryl got to say it twice. Negan got to say it twice. Rosita got to say it. Carol got to say it as well, but hers was really quiet. And the only reason why I spotted that is because I had the subtitles on. But I had to rewind that one. I was like, wait, did she actually? No, yeah. She says it really, really quietly. Mercer got one. Who else? Princess got one. So yeah, they all, not all, they don't all get one. They don't all get one. There are quite a few characters get to say it, but yeah, it was but here's the thing. I don't have a problem with that. It's more that because it came so late, I just felt like just leave it. You've gone so long without it. You're getting ready to end. Just leave it alone. Just leave it alone. You know what I mean? Just because it just felt so forced in unnecessarily at this point. Just leave it alone. Anyway, as far as The Walking Dead goes, yeah, pretty cool show. I enjoyed it all through seasons 1 to 11. But yeah, I could definitely understand why a lot of people didn't particularly like how it went from about season 8, 9 onwards. There's definitely a few things that I thought, I mean, of course, there's always, you can do things differently, but I just felt like the choices they made kind of felt a bit to me at times. But in the end, yeah, it was a decent enough show, so I can't be too mad at it. And that's my opinion on The Walking Dead. So let me know what you think. And until whenever, if ever, peace.